No!
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Thank it, Lori.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Spahn. Hope you guys are all doing well. If you are in the live chat, we do ask you to keep it family friendly over on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a minute, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you know when we go live. If you're joining us over on our podcast, we do want to welcome you. We also want to say thank you for your continued support. So today, last show that we did, we broke down the movie. What was it?
The Creator.
Oh, The Creator. That's right. Sorry. Yeah, we broke down the movie The Creator, and
it's okay, Lori. You have a gas bubble. It's okay.
I do. Somebody needs to burp me.
I think he already came out. You already mentioned it in chat.
What?
Part two of a 3-movie breakdown.
Part two.
This is part two of our 3-movie breakdown. So we did The Creator last week with Marcus Kaiser, who we are welcoming back today. And now we are going to dive into 2 movies. One that everybody's talking about, and that is Leave the World Behind. And it's going to tie in with the April 2024 release of the next big movie that we're going to keep an eye on, called Civil War. So we want to welcome all of you. We want to welcome Marcus Kaiser back to the channel.
Yay!
Yay! All right, before we start, we're going to put this up. Boiler Alert!
For those who have sensitivity to flashing lights, I do
Don't look at it.
apologize.
Yeah, well,
It's too late now. You already put it on there. You should have gave the warning.
I couldn't find one that doesn't flash like that. But I do apologize. Everybody, look away if you are subject to epilepsy. So I watched this movie a little over a week ago. I posted up that that I watched, and then it seems like everybody else, all of a sudden now is posting about it. People are talking about it all over the place, and so unlike the last breakdown that we did, Ernie actually watched this one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I watched it with my wife, but I wouldn't say I watched it. I analyzed it because I can't watch movies anymore. Any movie that I watch, I'm like sifting through it with a fine tooth comb, rewinding it and stuff like that. Movies aren't enjoyable to me anymore
No,
because I see through all that crap.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of us have that same thing. So let's do a quick recap before we pull up anything, because I have some videos, I have a lot of things to talk about. But hopefully, the majority of you have already watched this, so this is just going to be a recap for you guys. But so, in Leave the World Behind, Amanda and Clay draw. Now that's played by Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts. They drive out to a remote luxury Airbnb on Long Island for a vacation along with their kids, Archie, 15, and Rose, 13. They are a middle to upper middle class family who live in Brooklyn. It's an idyllic and peaceful vacation until an older black couple shows up at night, identifying themselves as the house owners, GH or George and Ruth. They explain that there's been a blackout. Amanda is initially suspicious of them and is surprised that they could own a home such as this one, but it turns out George and Ruth are wealthy and highly educated a highly educated couple. Their main home is in the upper east side of Manhattan, but they drove back to their vacation home to wait out the blackout. It's arranged that they will stay in the in-law unit in the basement until things get sorted. At the house, the Wi-Fi is out along with the landline, TV, and cell service, but they have power. Amanda also catches a news alert on her phone confirming a large-scale blackout across the East Coast. The next morning, Rose notices a herd of a few dozen deer outside, which she doesn't see is what she doesn't see is that there are actually thousands of them. Clay heads to town to assess the situation but gets lost. He runs into a scared woman, but she only speaks Spanish, so he leaves her. Meanwhile, Rose and Archie go exploring the woods. They find a shack at the house in a clearing, and Archie gets bitten by a tick. Then the thunderous noise is heard, loud enough to crack the glass in some doors, which scares everyone. Unknown to them, not too far away, the deer are scared and trample everything in their wake. Clay eventually finds his way home, but doesn't mention getting lost or the woman. The adults try to prepare for an extended blackout, filling the tub with water in case the water stops running and checking the food stores. But soon, Archie is struck with a fever. Amanda and Clay decide they need to leave to get him to a doctor the next morning. That night, a flock of wild flamingos appears on the lawn. Then a few more loud noises and sounds out, breaking more glass and scaring them. Amanda starts to think that they would be better to stay here where they have power, food, and water. But in the morning, a number of Archie's teeth have fallen out. They also notice that Rose is missing. Alarmed, Clay and George plan to drive immediately to a nearby hospital with Archie. Amanda will stay behind with Ruth to look for Rose. On the way, Clay finally admits to getting lost that day before, and he says that he did see a woman but left her despite knowing she needed help. George decides to make a stop to talk to Danny, his contractor, who he thinks can help them. However, Danny views George as merely someone he's done some work for in the past, as opposed to a friend, and greets him stiffly. He tells them what he knows. He says that there's a mass migration of deer going on, which is a bad sign. He advises them to go home and hunker down. George, Archie, and Clay decide to just head back to the house. Elsewhere, states of emergency have been declared, and the U.S. president is stowed away in a bunker. The world is falling apart. Levees are broken, resulting in floods. Some people worry about food. In the woods, Rose has made her way to the house she'd located the day before. The occupants are not home. They're stuck in San Diego and will never see their home again. She makes a note of all the useful things, grabs various supplies, and heads back to inform the others of her findings. I'm gonna end right there because this synopsis of this movie is just as bad as the movie, guys.
That's a book.
Yeah,
Okay, because I noticed there was a few differences between that.
there
And,
was a couple
like,
of differences, yeah.
yeah.
But it kind of gives you the a little bit of an idea of what it is. Let's do let me.
And I just want to say the reason why we're talking about both The Creator last week and this movie, Leave the World Behind, and then the upcoming movie, Civil War, is not because they're great movies. It's not because they're bad movies. It's because we want to understand what they're thinking, the messaging that's being put out through the movies to get into the minds of people, telegraphing possible future events. But we want to get into the mind and see where they're coming from. The Bible talks about be as crafty as the devil, yet as innocent as a dove. Be as crafty as the serpent himself, but yet as innocent as the dove. And the Bible also says to not be unaware of the plans of evil. So God wants us to be savvy. God wants us to be awake and aware. And it's not just so that we can fill our minds with trivia. It's not so that we can just become intellectuals. It's not so we can have fancy conversations over tea. It is so that through knowing what bad people have planned, we can prepare accordingly. We can pray more effectively. So this is the big picture. Just wanted to state that from the start. We want to understand what they're trying to unleash on society, so to speak, so that we can prepare, so that we're not taken unawares, and so that we can pray and go, God, what do you want me to do in my specific life regarding these things that seem to be exactly what they have planned to roll out on all of us.
And also I want to add on to the point, Marcus, that there's a couple of different things that we're going to be looking into tonight. One is the people who funded this movie, which is very, very alarming. Two, how entertainment has been blatantly, as of late, telling you everything they're doing and how cocky they are at telling us what they're doing. And people are going to look at this and see the ending and be like, oh, this movie suck. The ending is garbage. But yet they're not looking at the big picture on things. We're trying to shed that light onto that. And one last thing I wanted to bring is this stuff is already starting to take place. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yep.
And these things are going to only increase in intensity, just as the Bible predicted as far as the birth pains go. And I'm afraid 2024 is going to be the beginning of the end. And I don't like to predict anything, but I haven't been wrong yet. And I just had that feeling in my stomach. And I'm sure most of you have been feeling the same way.
Oh,
Yeah, and I put your trophy, the Always Right trophy, in the mail to you. It's in the mail, so you should
Don't do that, man.
You should be getting that shortly. But yeah, right. There's chaos, division, and because it's financed by the Obamas, and we know that they see everything through that Saul Alinsky lens of destruction. So they see everything through a racial lens. There's going to be racial stuff going on in this movie. They see everything through a class division, the rich versus the poor, the whites versus the blacks.
There was a lot of that in this movie.
There's a lot of all of that. That is how they view the world. They cannot escape their little Saul Alinsky paradigm they live inside of. Pathetic creatures that they are. You think you can tell I don't like them, but
there's skewed vision. Vision of the world.
Yeah, this comes through in that movie. So they're projecting their skewed version of the world onto all of us in this movie. Go ahead.
See, we got Doctor Strange played by Ethan Hawke, and whoever his name is playing as King the Conqueror. I mean, that's the vibes I'm getting off of. I mean, you look at Doctor
he's got the
Strange and
Doctor Strange
MCU.
hair, the white
Yeah,
the same places, the goatee and the same
That's what he
thing.
said when he started watching it. The first thing out of his mouth, he was, "What's with Doctor Strange?" I was like, "Good catch." I didn't.
and I pointed this out before the broadcast, and Lloyd, I talked to you about it when I was watching this. Who in the chat has watched the movie Training Day? If you, for those who haven't seen it, it's about a rookie cop on his first day of training, and he's riding along. The antagonist in that movie is Denzel Washington. Now, those who've seen this movie, gives off some of the same vibes. And my first question that came to mind was, why is Ethan Hawke always in the passenger seat of a car driven by a black man? Now, I'm a black man myself, so I can say that, and who cares who come at me? But right, it's like he gives off those types of vibes, and he always plays the same type of character that's kind of weak, kind of don't know anything. Yeah, always in the face of, like,
it's funny you should
dangerous
say that.
things.
When I was watching this movie, I thought to myself, "Man, I'm glad I would not want him as my husband in a crisis."
Right? He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know
what. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the beginning. So this movie starts out with the couple on the right here. And the opening scene is he's lying in bed, she's packing clothes, and he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "You know what? I decided we're gonna take a vacation." She goes, "I took it upon myself. I rented us an Airbnb. We're gonna pack up the kids. We're gonna go on vacation." He's like, "Okay, cool, let's go." Okay.
That's a role reversal right there. If you know,
she has very strong opinions about everything. He doesn't know what to think about anything.
And she's looking out the window, and she says how much she hates people, how she dislikes the city. She's just complain. Okay, so they get there, and the kids are having fun. So let's talk about the kids. So they have two children. I forgot the names of the kids. Let me pull them up. Here's their two kids. And we'll get into the pictures in just a little bit. But here's their two kids. Now, the little girl is obsessed with Friends. And she's watching the whole series on her iPad. And she's now unable to watch it because they don't have any Wi-Fi. And she's just complaining. And I got the idea that she might have been a little bit on the spectrum. She may be a little bit of, dyslexic, or what do I want to say? On the spectrum. Autistic, yeah. Did you guys get that? I did. So the parents, again, Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, they're trying to, make things normal, have a good time. There's a pool there, blah, 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 blah. They get ready, they go to bed. Here's the opening scene. Here's their bedroom that they're going to be sleeping in. And this kind of plays out in the background too, because as the movie goes on and more chaos ensues, the background of the bed gets more and more chaotic. Do you guys notice that?
Yeah, so let's stop right there and just mention something. So their house back in New York, their apartment, I should say, not a house, it's all blue. The cabinets are blue, the walls are blue. It is extremely blue. So blue, it's annoying. Everything is blue. And then they come out to this multi-million-dollar house that was available. And
this happens to be available.
Just, I mean, my goodness. And so in the bedroom is extremely blue, not the whole house. The bedroom is extremely blue. And so we see the blue sea and the turbulent sea and things like that behind them. So this is setting us up for these two people feel adrift. They feel lost on a stormy sea, and it sets up a very helpless feeling that they're gonna, show more and more overtly throughout the movie. But you're just like adrift. You're loose. You're not. Your feet are no longer on solid ground. Just wanted to say that. And
here, I'm going to pull this up because you talked about this is their bedroom.
Blue. I mean, that's not sort of blue. That is blue.
That is blue. We're talking everything blue.
Everything's blue.
And then they get to the Airbnb, and we have, I mean, she's got her sweater's the same color,
and her skirt matches this kind of like pattern on the thing on the end of the bed, and so folks, in movies there are no accidents. There are teams of people. There are interior decorators. There are art people. There are storyboards. There are everything. Every little bit is planned out, is intentional, is bought and purchased. They tried 40 different skirts that she should wear for that scene and pick the specific one they wanted for it. So how these movies work, it is incredibly intentional. So don't tell me there's any, it just happened to be that way. And of course, we'll talk about shirts and logos and NASA's and obeys and stuff in a second. But just in case there's any doubt, or you just want to rationalize it away, no, it's all extremely intentional, I guarantee.
All right. Here's the mural behind the bed at the beginning of the movie.
They're thrust into a chaotic world.
Here's the middle, and then here's at the end. It's just chaotic. Now, okay, so they get to the con or the Airbnb, and they decide that they're going to go to the beach. So they gather the kids up. They get to the beach, and they're laying on the sand, and they're watching from a distance a cargo ship.
Oil tanker.
An oil tank. Yes, I'm sorry.
Right?
An
yeah,
oil tanker. An oil tanker. And so this oil, as they're sitting there, all of a sudden people stop and they're looking, and this is what they see. The ship is coming right towards them.
It doesn't stop. It's not slowing down.
It's not slowing down at all. And give me a second. It is called the White.
And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of what you're about to say, but I think in the movie, this shows us that the first thing to crash, because it literally crashes, it washes up on the beach, is energy, is oil and gas.
Right.
I think that's what they're telling us by, there's other things that crashed later on in the movie, but this is the first, and it's big.
And it's big, exactly. And it comes, okay, give me a second and I'll grab that. So yeah, and so it keeps coming. Everybody's running for their lives. It washes up on shore, and it's called White Lion. And so that's what happens. Then they can't really figure out why, because remember, they don't have any news. They don't have any way to get information. And then they put the kids to bed that night. And
there's a whole lot of stuff throughout the whole movie, as I just interrupted you, but the ship crashes. Nobody gets off the ship, explains what's happening. The ship never blows its horn to say, hello, we're about to crash, get out of the way. Ships have horns. And so my point is there's no interpretation. I'm jumping ahead. Planes crash, cars crash. There's no people in any of these things. No people on the ship, no people on the plane. Well, there's some, bodies, but no people that can explain anything. There's just all this chaos and weird things happening, and the people are just lost because they're given no interpretation whatsoever. The movie doesn't try to explain it. It just random stuff seems to be happening. Go ahead.
Exactly. And you've got, like you said, there's no explanation. They know that the internet is out and they don't have cell phone service, but they are just chalking it up to being out in the middle of nowhere. They're not putting two and two together of anything wrong at this point. The ship doesn't let out his horn. He doesn't give a warning. It just keeps coming and washes up on shore, and that's all you get. Something I got. Hold on a second. I have an echo. Audio. Okay, hopefully they'll take care of it. There's given no explanation. Nothing as far as are the satellites down? Marcus, can you mute for just a second? Let's see if that works. Yep, it's Marcus. They don't give any explanation. Are the satellites down? Is the GPS down? What's going on? The TV, there was an emergency broadcast that came through the TV, but of course nobody was in the living room at the moment to hear it. And so we don't get any explanation. Go ahead.
Might as well show them that TV message.
Where's that one? Hold on a minute.
The white lion has symbolism to it as well.
Did you send it to me?
I don't believe I sent it to you, Lori. Actually, Karen even posted it in chat too. I was going to mention that. White lion was like one of the first slave ships that sailed the Atlantic to the United States from Africa.
Okay.
So I mean, that plays into the woke agenda being portrayed in this movie as well, as we dive a little bit deeper into that. But anything like that type of stuff, we gotta look beyond what it appears to be. And also I did take a look at some of the hidden meanings of the white lion. It does have a spirituality meaning to it. Now said it extends to healing, serving as beacons of restoration for individuals in the world at large. It holds the promise of rejuvenation, igniting the spark of motivation within individuals to embark on journeys of personal and collective healing. They're regarded as divine messengers. White lions are believed to directly convey the messages of the divine.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And I mean, as we even started from the beginning of the very movie, I sent you a screenshot of it as I was watching it. We've seen this type of satanic symbology representing in this movie, from their bedroom in their house before they went on vacation to the kids too. So there's a lot of demonic symbology.
Yeah, there was a 666. There was 2 clocks, both at the 6, and then his coffee cup, I believe, had a 6 on it.
I watched somebody talking about the movie. He was just looking at all the numbers, and he found tons of 666s everywhere, and all of these number things. Some of which I think could be coincidence, and it's a bit of a stretch. But if you find so many of them, dozens of them, they can't all be that way. So
exactly. Okay, so they go to bed that night. Get the kids calm down. Daughter's still freaking out because she can't watch Friends, and there's a knock at the door, and it's the owner of the house and his daughter, and they were at a party or a function or something in the city, and the blackout happened. And this is the first time they hear about the blackout. And Julia Roberts does not trust these two at all. I'm sorry. If you're really going to dislike a character on a movie, she took the cake in about the first 5 minutes these people showed up.
And it was designed to be that way.
I know it was.
Because if you look at it from the surface, they're like, oh, they don't trust me because they're black. I mean, if some stranger pull up to a house where I'm vacationing in and trying to come in and stay with us, you think I wouldn't want to trust them too? Oh, no.
But, when she sits there and she's like, how do we know if they're not, this might not even be their house. He's like, but he knows where the silver, the cups are. He knows where things are,
and at the same time, there's so many stupid things. He doesn't pull out an ID. He doesn't pull out a deed. He doesn't pull out the electricity bill that came in the mail with his name on it. There's so many logical things that can happen. Yeah, they don't do any logical stuff.
And here's the thing too. I'm trying to skirt around this because of algorithms, but with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke, who's a husband and who's a wife?
Yeah, total reversal. Yeah,
total role reversal in it. And it just it's not
I mean,
only designed to incite racism, but it's also designed to demonize the male, to effeminate them.
well, it it,
Like the
it
women
also
are stronger than
mirrors
men.
the Obama relationship in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're the
Behind the scenes.
uppity people in the world, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and we know whose they are. And
Right.
who's
So,
who.
so Julia doubts that black people could even own a house this nice, and she's not so subtle about it. And this guy's what? He's a stockbroker. Or he's like a securities trader or something like that, right?
Yeah,
He's in
and
the
he works.
market.
Yeah, and he works with a lot of. And we find out later in the movie that he's worked with someone who is high up in the cabal, a very well-to-do man. I took it that he was working with. I thought he was talking about possibly Elon Musk. Did you guys get that? What did you think he was talking about?
It was just vague. I didn't connect it to anybody myself.
I was thinking it was some type of person that everybody knows about that said he wasn't famous. Elon Musk is famous,
Oh, they didn't say
but
it was.
everybody knows his name. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was somebody everybody knows who they are.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's the only part.
So I'm assuming it's one of the members of the league in high roles of government.
Right. And we'll get to
and they're all from New York, right? Where there's tons of money shifting hands and stocks and
right.
all of this stuff. Now, there's a key line that said there. I don't know if any of you guys were going to say something about that, but I'm going to say it. He said, Ethan comes back to, well, I mean, if you're this insider guy, don't you know exactly what all's going on? And he gives a key line here that says, no, all that does is that gives you like a 10-minute head start being really rich. So he goes, no, I work for the guy, but it doesn't let me know everything that's going on. I'm compartmentalized, he admits, basically.
But I'll give you one better. During the conversation that the black man GH had a conversation with Julia Roberts in the kitchen while they were drinking, what he said to her was one of the most profound lines in the entire movie. When he was talking about him having a conversation with one of his clients that he wouldn't name because she would know exactly who this person is, even though he wasn't famous, he said something about the cabal. And it was, I think I have it in the conversation I sent to Lori. I'm going to look for that. I should have brought that up before the beginning of the movie. It was pretty bad. Let's see here. Evil cabal that what runs the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was dead serious when he said that. He immediately started laughing afterwards, but he was serious.
Right.
And so was the person he was talking to.
As a matter of fact. I mean, obviously this is the way it is.
Right.
Okay. So then the father and daughter. Okay, so the mother's not with them. She's on a plane over in Europe. She's some big wig doing some big wig things. So she's implied during the movie, but she's never seen during the movie. So I think so. These guys, there's kind of a pushback between the four characters here, because Julie Roberts doesn't trust them. She doesn't believe who they are. They agree to let them spend the night, but they have to stay downstairs in the mother-in-law area of the house in the basement. They're not allowed to stay in their own bedrooms. And
again, this is the white man putting the black man down, literally. The white man is up in the upstairs bedroom. The black man is down in the basement,
sleeping on the floor.
And the black girl The black girl pointed that out to him
many times.
many times throughout the movie.
Yes,
So
many.
so they want people to be upset like that. We'll see how white people are. We'll see how.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, so the next day, they decide that Ethan Hawke is going to leave and he's going to drive to try to get to town to see if he can get some food and supplies and stuff like that. So he takes off and leaves and he gets lost. Because they have him as a very what do I say, weak individual who can't even get to town without GPS, I guess you want to say. Right. So he goes to town, gets lost, can't find it, runs across a woman who's speaking nothing but Spanish. She's in panic, and he's trying to tell her, he can't understand her, blah, blah, blah.
He never knows what to do. This does not change. He does not grow.
No, he never knows what to
He
do.
stays as a person who never knows what to do about it. The most proactive thing he does is he takes the advice and fills up the tub with water. That is the peak of his being proactive here.
Right.
You know what? That brings a thought too. Another symbology of the immigrants coming through the southern border. How Americans are turning their backs on them. They're not trying to help them.
Yeah. That's kind of what I got too, because he, first off, he doesn't even want to help her. Hold on a minute.
And it's portraying the average American as being the devil who cares nothing about themselves and don't want to have people come in and move in to help them out and find a better life. And there's so many different agendas pushing
all of
in this
Obama,
movie.
the destroyer, the divider, all of his personal beliefs, he just uses this film to inflict them upon us yet again.
Exactly. All right, now, so he hold on just a second. I'm trying to pull this up. I'm gonna save this. Oh, I can't save that. Hold on a minute. Copy. Okay. We're going to save this. Okay, we're going to pull this up. Okay, so he ends up getting away from this woman. He drives away, and he starts heading back to them. And what happens is he sees an airplane. And this airplane, wait a second. I got to delete a picture. Delete.
And it's very strange. And the music comes on at this point in the film to show you the music says danger. It says fear.
Exactly. Hold on.
And one thing I noticed throughout this movie is the cameras, the shots that were being taken. Notice I was going in spirals quite a bit throughout this movie.
It was very disorienting to watch.
On purpose.
Yeah. On purpose. So my suggestion would be there have some subliminals deep in this movie that we might need to hopefully somebody will be able to do some backmasking and finding out what those subliminal messages are.
There's a lot of people doing deep dives on this. So
because I really think they were trying to brainwash something into us as we were watching this movie.
Absolutely. That's the point of the movie. It's not to entertain.
Yeah.
It's
not the visuals, it's
money
the camera angles too.
And that's what was crazy about it. It was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, but I was like, I've got to watch it to the end. I got to see what's going on. I've got to see what's
to me,
going on.
it wasn't a bad movie up until the end. It was bad acting in some parts, but Ethan Hawke is a great actor in my opinion. So he played it out the best way he could. It was the camera angles that really stood out to me quite a bit.
He did the best with what he had. Okay, so Ethan he gets away from the woman who's speaking Spanish to him. He starts going away in a panic, and he sees an airplane. and this airplane is dropping these red things from the sky, and he gets out, he picks it up, and this is what is on. This is the pamphlet. This is the front, and this is the back. And he puts it in his pocket, and he takes it home, and doesn't say anything to anybody.
Yeah, the thing was he was running away from it too.
Yeah, but he doesn't say anything to anybody. Okay, so
basically it's a jihad comes, but in this symbolic form. We don't see any literal people. We just see these pamphlets. And so we've got the division between blacks and whites. We've got the division between whites and Hispanics. We've got the white man being afraid of the Middle Eastern. Again, it's just all Obama's own beliefs and worldview being shoved down our throats.
And it also brings back to scripture when Jesus was asked, when is the sign of that coming? When nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. When nation against nation is people.
Right.
Different races.
Ethnicity.
Right.
Yeah.
Ethnicities, yes. And you're seeing that starting to take place in this movie quite a bit.
Exactly.
And I do think this is a prequel to the movie that's coming out in April.
I'm positive of it, and we're going to get to that. And he's going to say it right out of his own mouth.
And the message on these flyers is basically that we're coming to kill you, and it's the son who knows what the message is because he learned of it in a video game he was playing.
Video game. Yeah. So this one here is Death to America. That's what this one means. And this one here is telling about how to surrender because they have the most powerful weapon in the world ever made, and they're not afraid to use it on us. But we're going to listen to something about this a little later, because when we get to another character that's brought in, he tells us something different about this. And we're going to wait till we get to that. Okay, so all of this happening, and while all the adults are doing all of this, the kids are in the backyard and seeing deer, the deer is coming up to them, not saying anything, just staring at them.
Yet again, stuff happens. There's no explanation. There's no logic to it. Stuff is just happening.
Right.
And why is the plane flying in the middle of nowhere, dropping leaflets where there's nobody to even see the leaflets? You would go to a city or a town. So there's tons of stuff that doesn't make. So the viewer is left in this bewildered state, just like it shows on the back wall behind their bed. We're adrift. We're lost in this sea of confusion with no landmarks in sight.
Yeah, we're just kind of at the mercy of what are they going to show us next? What are they going to tell us next?
And as Ernie pointed out, the camera's even doing circles around the characters, giving you a further sense of disorientation. So the more dissociated you are, the other technique that movies use to do that is shining lights in your face while in the scene, that there's bright light shining. They do that in interrogations, right, to break the person down. So, but it's not bright lights in this case. It's doing circles. All of this is to make you more susceptible to the programming that's not aimed at your conscious. It's aimed at your subconscious. And so, as I said in the Creator movie, there's a lot of stuff that's actually really stupid. Police robots that have no armor and can be easily shot, right?
Yeah.
It's not about making logical sense, because it's not, the purpose of the movie is not to speak to your logical conscious mind. It's to program you at the unconscious level.
Do you think that they left us disoriented on purpose?
Absolutely.
Because we didn't have any more answers than the people in the movie. And do you think that was to desensitize us? So when something does happen,
stuff is going to happen to you. You just need to be passive. You just need to hunker down in your home. You need to put yourself under lockdown.
Don't try to find any answers.
And just let it happen. Again, as the phrase goes, we all know this phrase. What do they want from you? Your silent, obedient consent. So yes, it's modeling for us the behavior of a passive victim response.
Right. Right. Exactly. Be okay with the fact that you don't have any answers. Okay, so
and Julia Roberts, I can't remember her character name. The
oh, yeah.
movies forget me. She's portrayed as the one to be hated, but yet she's the one that is right and logical.
Yeah.
You listen to what I'm saying. Like, she was skeptical about letting strangers in the house, for one thing. She's wanting to find answers as to what is going on. And well, everybody, well, besides, the black man who already knew, she was trying to be the leader of the group and trying to figure out what is going on. She's the one that's not afraid to go out.
Right.
Went out barefoot in the woods looking for her daughter. It's just those things like that just
the
kind of
actions that
rang
they
into my
do
head.
take, all the actions they do take to try to figure out what's going on, they're all futile. The trying to drive into town, that doesn't work. We don't know anything more than before he set out to go into town.
Well, and then they decide they're gonna leave. They're just gonna go back to the city.
Yeah, a horrible idea. Idea.
Yeah, they're gonna go back to the city, and so they pack the kids up. They get in the car. They start driving, and they come across this.
But also, before that, when he goes to his neighbor's house to get the satellite phone, that's actually a smart move to figure out what's going on.
Because that actually told us that there was no. So that actually explained a lot. So the guy goes to the neighbor's house, and he knows that his buddy's got a satellite phone in his garage. So he goes there. Again, we're not seeing any people. And he grabs the satellite phone, and it's not working. So that tells us okay, the satellites are down, the GPS is down. So that's why
and by the way, we're already past the ships. I'm sorry, the airplanes crashing.
Right.
We've already had a scene before this of 2 airplanes crashing along the beach.
Crashing. Right.
So all navigation is down. Navigation by ships, navigation by planes, and here we see navigation by cars.
Right. And they're using these LRAD weapons against the people. These high screeching, making your ears bleed, high pitched noises that are breaking the glass. So they're using that, which again disorients you. And we find out later that it's causing radiation. So,
well, here's the thing too, and not only disorienting those people in the movie, but it's also disorienting the people who's watching the movie.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, because my wife was feeling it, because it's a frequency no matter what.
When they played that high screech tone, they actually let it go to where it was uncomfortable for the viewer.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, again,
these are all programming tactics, all of it.
And I will tell you one thing. I said it pre-broadcast. I'm gonna say it live. I was looking at getting an electric vehicle because I love technology. I love everything technology. Don't ask me how or why I got into it. I don't know. But after watching this movie, I know for certain that I will never buy a self-driving car or an electric car ever in my life.
Well, it's funny you should mention about self-driving car because, okay, so what this scene does is she gets out of the car and she goes and walks, and there's nobody around. There's no people. These are Tesla cars who have been
told
driving themselves. They're autonomous vehicles driving themselves and crashing into one another and causing a congestion on the freeways to the point where when they zoom out and they pan out, all you see is cars crashed for literally tens of 20s of miles.
And notice that are all white cars.
Right.
Exactly. So let's do a racism check thus far, since not because we feel this way, but because Obama himself, that's the paradigm he's under. And so we have a a ship that's painted in black that's called the White Lion, hauling black oil, paralleling the first slave ship to America. That crashes. Again, black ship hauling black oil, called the White Island. So just like the real ships carried black people, this carries black oil. Then we have the, we
It's
have
fuel
the,
for the industry, just like the black people were back in that day.
Right.
yeah, and of course all the people on the beach are white, as far as I know. So that's crashing at us. They don't know what to do. But here we have all white Teslas. So the white people are helpless. All their technology is failing them. And so, yeah, again, it's all through the thing. They cannot help but do a movie this way because that's how they themselves think.
Exactly. Well, and I said that I sent this to both of you guys as soon as I saw it, that we see this scene in this movie. These autonomous cars, they're Teslas. They have this ability to be driven and crashed and cause chaos. Tesla. When was this?
And I think
Yesterday.
Tesla means many things, but I think it's also a sign of the upper class.
Yeah. But yesterday, Tesla recalled its auto steer technology.
Yeah.
And they said that is facing multiple lawsuits over crashes, some fatal, linked to the company's auto steer technology, which is intended to assist drivers in changing lanes and automatically adjust cruise control settings in traffic. They want to recall 2 million vehicles equipped with this autopilot technology because it's faulty. And it happens right after we see this.
Right.
And it's a $15,000 upgrade to add that feature onto the car, and it's via software.
Oh, ouch.
Ouch is right. Is right. Okay, so they turn around. They decide they're not going to go. They're going to go back to the house. So they go back to the house, and the four of them decide that, well, you know what? We need to work together. We need to work together. We need to decide, what we're going to do. And so they do. They decide to work together. Meanwhile, the two kids, the boy and the girl, let me pull them up. Where are they? Uh-oh. Did I lose them? There they are. So the little boy and the little girl, they are out. They're just sightseeing. They're looking at things. They find a house that's a real nice house. It's a neighbor house. They find a like a garage kind of house, and they go exploring.
Shall we talk about the messages on the shirts?
Yeah, let's talk about the messages.
I'll talk about the Obey one, and someone else can talk about the NASA one. But the NASA is also red, white, and blue. We've got red also used in this. So Obey, comply, conform, obey. This was this artist who created this image and logo. He did it as a response after watching the They Live movie, which is an early movie about seeing the truth behind the scenes and seeing.
Which, by the way, is a documentary. It's not a movie.
Which is a documentary, a mockumentary, and so he is the one who created this. Now, this same artist is the one who designed the Obama posterized image of hope and change. Obama in that red and blue colors.
Yeah.
Same guy. So obviously Obama likes him. He puts the shirts in there. Let's tell the masses to simply obey. Anyway, that's what I was going to say about that shirt. Anything else?
Yeah.
Well, NASA is another word for Satan, pretty much.
Yep.
I mean, look at the NASA logo. We got the forked tongue.
Yep.
We know their space is actually the ocean, not up above us, below us. We know that Obama has quoted backmasked, "Thank you, Satan." So basically, what we're looking at these shirts is saying, "Obey Satan."
Exactly. Speaking of Satan, let's take a look.
And some people would dare to say that Obama is the son of Satan.
Definitely part of the Antichrist system. Absolutely. What part he plays, we don't know yet, but he's absolutely part of that. Absolutely. So I was sent this, and it says, Baal, Baal, but people forgot to look on the left side. The I in Julia, the A in Ethan, and the M in Mahala. It says, I am Baal. Can't get any clearer than that. And let's talk about the deer for a moment. There was deer all over in this movie, there wasn't anything.
It's central. They don't explain it, and yet they show you this symbol again and again and again and again and again. It's on the book covers that this movie was taken from. They just show up and stare at you ominously as if expecting something from you, and the kids don't know what do you want? What am I supposed to do? So every form of it, deer, and it's about the horns. In the center of that, it's about the horned one, the horned god, Cernunnos, the god of wild things. And so the globalists literally talk about in their documents their need to rewild America. That means cram everybody into the 15-minute cities, let the infrastructure for the rest of the whole country go to pot, fall apart, and let it be taken back over by animals and things like that. We saw that in the fungus zombie TV show, where the world was falling apart, and vines and growth were just taking over everything. So wildness. So Obama is a destroyer. Obama is somebody who unleashes destruction and chaos. That's his mission. A few people think he's the Antichrist. I don't believe that.
No.
But so certain, basically, this is it's an unleashing. What's being done, a cult, is the point of this film is to unleash Cernunnos on America. Unleash the wildness, release the chaos, release the crisis, release the confusion, release the destruction. This is what the horned one represents. And it's taking over, and it's the form of deer running amok all through the thing. They are rewilding America. So while all of our technology goes down, our fancy cars disappoint us and crash, our satellite phones don't work, our oil doesn't work, our planes don't work, nobody knows what's happening. Yes, this is wildness being unleashed. This is the god of wild things exerting its dominance over America.
Guys, Rock and Robin in our chat room just blew my mind away right now, because she's right. Only the females in the movie saw the deer. The brother never saw the deer in the backyard when he was in the pool. When he looked, they were gone.
Good call, Robin.
Good call, Robin. Then when the deer were intrusive at that garage building, it was just Julia Roberts and the daughter, the girl here. I can't remember her name.
I keep wanting to call her Michaela.
But that's her real name. But yeah, it was just those two. The two females here were the only ones that saw this.
Right.
Good call, Robin.
And they were able to scream at them, and they went away.
They screamed and they went away. Yeah, exactly. All right, so Ruth, thank you. Her name's Ruth. Okay, so the two men, the two grown-ups. Welcome, Robin. You are welcome back here anytime. This is her first live, guys, and you knocked one out of the park for us. Thank you, dear. Okay, so the two men decide, you know what, we're gonna get the house ready. So they fill up the tub, they do all these things. Now they mentioned that the son got bit by a tick and goes to bed that night. And he wakes up in the morning and all of his teeth are falling out. And so now the panic sets in. Now they've got to get the son to a hospital. So and now the little girl's missing, the daughter's missing. So he gets sick, the daughter's missing. So now they decide they're going to separate. The two men take the little boy or the young man, they get him in the car and they're going to go and try to find into town to try to find a hospital or something. And the two women, Ruth and Julia Roberts, they set out to try to find the daughter. And so they're separated. So this is where I thought the movie got good. So the three gentlemen are in the car and they go to the contractor's house who they had done some work on the house. And that was Kevin Bacon's character. And now he thinks that he's just going to roll up on this guy and he's a friend because I know him. He's done work on my house. That's not what happens. Kevin Bacon is a prepper and he comes out with his gun and he's like, "What do you want?" And, the guy's like, "Well, look, we're not friends. We're in a time of civil unrest right now. We're not friends. State what you want and go." And they said,
Kevin Bacon goes totally into every man for himself mode.
Every man for himself.
Hardcore, straight into that. The guy pleads with him, but he's sick. He needs help. My son. There's no compassion there either.
Exactly. So he says, this is what you got to do. You've got to, pretty much fend for yourself. So they ended up talking him into exchanging cash, which Kevin Bacon's like, cash is not even going to be, relevant, But they ended up gave him $1,000 for some pills that were going to help his son. Now, they go to leave, and this is where answers we have finally. Take a listen to this.
I spent a lot of time studying the cost-benefit analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple 3-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. The first stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible. Set them up for the second stage. Synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy or motive, people will start turning on each other. Done successfully, the third stage would happen on its own. What's the third stage? A coup d'etat. Civil war. Collapse. This program was considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize the country. Because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
The sick thing is, I think deep down we know we're not fooling anyone. I think we know we're living a lie. An agreed upon mass delusion to help us ignore and keep ignoring how awful we really are. An agreed upon mass delusion to help us ignore and keep ignoring how awful we really are.
I can barely do anything without my cell phone and my GPS. I am a useless man.
Since 2016, U.S. government officials overseas and their families have reported sudden, unexplained brain injuries with symptoms of vertigo, confusion, and memory loss. The CIA, FBI, and State Department are investigating a theory that some of these officials were injured by an unseen weapon. Who might be targeting Americans and why are unknown.
Okay, that was the weapon he's talking about is scalar or the LRAD, the sound, the high pitched noises that they heard.
I just posted this in the chat, Lori, and when Ethan Hawke gave that line that I'm a useless man, it completely reminded me of Yuval Noah Harari when he called us useless eaters.
Yeah, exactly. So
that hit too close to home right there.
It did. So, okay, so he's telling us the 3 stages. The first one is isolation, to disable communications, transportation, and to basically paralyze the masses. And the second one is synchronized chaos with covert attacks, misinformation, and the third one, he said, if the first 2 are done correctly, the third one will take care of itself. And that is a coup d'etat. That is a civil war. And that is why I believe that movie that's going to come out in April of 2024 is going to fit in with this one. But I do want to go back real quick before we go any further, because when Kevin Bacon was talking to these 2 gentlemen, Ethan Hawke finally pulled out the pamphlet. And this is when we find out that this one was on the East Coast. The Arabic one was dropped on the East Coast. On the West Coast, they got a similar pamphlet, but theirs was written in North Korean. What do you guys think about that little tidbit?
It reminds me back to scripture when he's talking about the alignment of nations to destroy Israel.
I think it's all just about trying to make us feel afraid and helpless at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that too, because I mean, we can't control what's coming. It's going to come. And the fact of the matter is that they're telling us that it's happening. Like, it's going to happen. We are already at the start. I mean, if it's not from wokeism, it's from invasion.
Right.
Well, in that clip that Lori just played, the 3 stages and so forth, they basically handed it to you. They handed it very overtly, and no subtlety here, so you can't possibly miss the message, even if you try, even if you're a complete idiot. Here's the message. They just bullet pointed it for you. This is the core message of the film. So the overt thing that's happening are those 3 stages. The spiritual thing that's happening is the false god of Cernunnos being unleashed to wreak all manner of wildness and chaos over the nation. So, I mean, that is the heart of the movie. All of this other stuff is just dressing around that thing right there. This is the core of the film right here.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to go over that. First one was isolation, which is what they did. These people were isolated. Nobody could get in and out of the cities because of the cars that were being crashed and the chaos that was being caused on the road. Isolation because of the lack of communication. They disabled the communication. They dismantled the transportation. They pretty much paralyzed people. They weren't allowed. They couldn't get any information on their phones. They couldn't get any information on the TVs. Nothing was working. The second one was synchronized chaos with covert attacks. Again, we saw the covert attacks with these scalar, these LRAD. High frequency weapons that were used on these people, and misinformation. And you got misinformation, because you're pretty much if you are isolated and have no information, your mind will start filling in the blanks, whether it's right or wrong. And then finally, like he said, if the first 2 are done correctly, the third one will take care of itself, and that's a coup d'etat. That is a civil war, unrest from within. And our country is being set up for that right now.
Yep. And we're on the verge of it. Like, it's going to happen.
I happen to know that this Civil War agenda is decades and decades and decades old. It's not just since the 70s. This has been like the 50s. And this will be beyond most people's paradigms. You may think what I'm about to say is crazy and fringe and nuts or whatever, but there's a project, the Montauk Project, which still exists, but in other forms. And they were doing time travel. And they were sending little kids, because adults, when they're time travel, it just freaks them out too much and their minds break. But little kids are more accepting and adaptable. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids were sent back on time travel missions. And a lot of these kids did die, but they did all kinds of things. They went back and got Nephilim DNA. They went back and got dinosaur DNA. They viewed the crucifixion of Jesus. They did everything they could possibly do. But one of the things that they did, and I know somebody who's been sent back specifically to the Civil War time so they could be observers and gather intelligence so that they could recreate the conditions of the Civil War. Not, we live in, the technology is vastly different, the culture is way different, but there's dynamics of unrest. Like, what does it take to to finally push people over the edge enough to actually create the Civil War? And they were intentionally trying to gather that information decades and decades and decades ago, in a mix, tons of other deep state nefarious plans, call it what you will. But they have literally sent kids back to report, gather intel, or deliver messages back and forth. Not messages from point to point, but messages back and forth in time, so that they could foment civil war now. This is a plan that's been in place, or I'm sure it's not perfected and complete. I'm sure they ongoingly adjust it and update it, and they always try to continuously improve. But they have been trying to create civil war. They need the West destroyed. They need us invaded, conquered, overthrown, because we've got an independence mindset, and they don't want that. They want your mindless, silent, obedient consent to all things New World Order. And Americans who've got this fierce independence, it's half dead in us, but it's not fully dead in us. We need to be depopulated in their minds, according to their view, so that we can get the West out of the way, most specifically America, so we can completely roll out the New World Order. Because we know for a fact all these other people, we can easily get them to comply. America's a roadblock in the way of the New World Order. America must be destroyed. And civil war is going to be the most efficient, devastating way if we can start killing each other, hating on each other, and so forth. So my just word of advice, friend to friend, would be, don't get involved in civil war. Things are going to happen. And I've got a theory as to what's going to finally be the thing that throws us over the top to create the civil war. But I won't share it unless Lori wants me to, but they need us hurting each other so that we're so severely weakened that they can roll in and just take over, because we've just beat each other up so badly and killed each other. So don't get into these Democrat versus Republican, Trump versus Biden, versus that thing. Both sides are a trap. If they can get you hating on some other group of people within your own country, your fellow countrymen, they have set you up to so weaken yourselves that any one of these nations, China, Russia, North Korea, any of them, can roll in and just mop up.
Absolutely.
And so watching this movie, seeing how hard they're trying to program us for civil war, how they're trying to push it, how they're trying to get us to already accept it, to be mentally passive. Well, it's just going to happen. Well, it may happen, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get all riled up. We've got sports teams. Well, this team beat that team. And some people really get into that. Football game, baseball game, whatever, basketball, it doesn't matter. They identify. And if my team wins, I feel like a winner. If my team and I go drink beer because that's how I celebrate. And if my team loses, I feel like a loser. And so I go drink beer because that's how I mourn. So, it's all a trap to get you to drink beer. Well, in the same way, it's all a trap to get you lulled into getting so mad, so irrationally mad that you no longer see your fellow person as a person. Now, I personally believe, y'all might have different opinions. I personally believe that this will happen, that we will have civil war, but they're trying to soften us up to this idea 1,000 different ways. There's some of that in this movie, as we just saw, and there's going to be a ton of it in that Civil War movie coming up. This has been a plan that's been in the works for decades. Whether you believe me that, hey, time travel even exists, it doesn't really matter. They're setting you up for civil war. And knowing that, why do we say that? Why do we talk about these movies? Knowing that you need to steel yourself against the idea of civil war. You need to steel yourself of getting, we had Americans going over to fight for Ukraine, just a few months ago, right? Because that was the popular and cool, and it was all painted to the American people as the virtuous thing to do. So people will respond to the messaging. That's why propaganda works. That's why it's there. Movies program people. It affects us. It influences us. That's why movies exist. If they had no effect on people,
right,
the elites wouldn't be pumping out CRAP like these movies. And I mean that these are programming events. We've already talked about it from several angles. So when they try to get you hating somebody so much that you're willing to inflict violence upon them, I just need to get rid of you. Once they've got you to that point, you're just set up, and you end up hurt. They get hurt. A lot of evil, a lot of death happens, and our enemies, like they said, can just roll in and clean up the mess because we've been tricked into hurting ourselves.
Exactly. And do you get the notion that had everything gone according to, no drama in this movie, say the son hadn't gotten sick, his teeth hadn't fallen out, and the little girl hadn't taken off and disappeared and they couldn't find her, that these people would just continue to just live in this house and not try to find any answers?
My guess would be that they would mostly just still be dazed and confused, that they would still try a few token gesture actions to try to find things out, and those would be met with confusion. I mean, I would at this point jump to the ending of the movie. What do we see at the end of the movie? In all of this, the viewer of the movie, which is can't help but start identifying with one of these characters or another one of these characters or whatever, they are helpless.
Right.
Whatever they know, it's not enough to change anything. And so, at the end of the movie, you see some bombs going off and stuff. I'll let you guys talk about that, but all you can do is sit and watch.
Yeah.
They sit and watch the white Tesla after the white Tesla after white Tesla crash.
Crash.
They can't do jack about it. They sit and watch the giant oil tanker coming right at them, and they do nothing until they finally run away, but they do nothing to change it, nothing to stop it. So the viewer, are trying to be programmed to be, hey, when you see your country falling apart, you can't do anything about it. Just, be okay, as Lori just said, with not knowing.
And take it on the chin.
Take it on the chin.
Just let it happen.
Right.
When you see our borders being just like ignored, just let it happen.
Trust the plan.
There's a lot of rapists, unfortunately, that I'm talking about, literal, physical, actual rapists, that will say to their victims as they're performing the rape, let it happen. Just let it happen. That is a familiar phrase that, again, the rapist doesn't want the resistance. I mean, maybe they're into that. Maybe they want the resistance. It's possible. But mostly they just want to feel powerful and that other person is a victim and they can do whatever they want to them. In the same way, they want to loot and pillage and destroy and divide this nation. And they want us not able to do anything about it. They don't want us to be able to communicate with each other. They don't want us to. There is nothing empowering in this movie I felt in this movie like I was being lectured to and talked down to by an elitist, and it was annoying and it pissed me off. But can I do anything about it in the movie? No, I just have to watch and let the movie unfold. Well, that's the message. Everything is going to go to shit. Just let it happen. Just watch it unfold. It's bigger than you, and you're helpless. And so the whole thing is setting you up to feel disempowered so that you will act in a disempowered way, which is not act at all.
And so after the boys, the guys go talk to Kevin Bacon, while that's happening, Julia Roberts and Ruth are trying to find the little girl. She had taken off. They don't know where she is. And again, they have that feeling of being helpless because they find a clearing. They're looking over the bay. They're looking into New York City, and they're watching bombs being dropped all in New York City. Again, just standing there, having no recourse, just their ability to just stare and to watch.
And correct me, we don't even know who's dropping the bombs. Is that right? Or is it implied or what?
What is that?
Remind me, do we even know who's doing the bombing?
No.
Yeah. So again, it's a very frustrating movie to watch because, let's say you're watching a murder mystery. Well, there's a bunch of little clues in the movie, but in the murder mystery movie that all those little clues that didn't make sense, they're going to all get pulled together in the last few minutes of the movie. And it's going to go, wow, look at that. But no, this is the opposite of what happens in this movie. This stuff happens. There's no interpretation. Nothing makes sense. We do have the interpretation in the 3-step plan.
That's about the only thing the movie. The entire.
That's what we have. We have. There's no other. Why are the deer doing this? No reason.
No.
Why didn't anybody get out of the oil tanker and say, "Oh my gosh, is anybody hurt?" No one does that. There's no reason. We
never see anybody other than the 6 main characters and people on the beach.
Right.
The Spanish lady.
It's a very isolated feeling situation.
I think you can count on a number of count on 2 hands the number of people that these people had contact with. It was very, again, you got that feeling of isolation.
You're all alone. You're helpless and you're screwed. So let it happen. That's the nutshell.
Something that I've noticed in the movie too, and I don't know if we're going to be getting into it or not, but the title of the last episode of Friends.
Oh yeah, because we haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
But yeah,
it all leads to that point. Like for past couple of days, I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, what is significance of that title of that movie? Like, we know it's tied to Matthew Perry and stuff like that too. So I don't know if you guys going to talk about this next, but that's something I definitely would like to take a deep dive on because I think that has a significant meaning to it.
I have a video that's going to wrap up and give you a synopsis of what they think the ending's going to be explained.
Okay.
But I'm not going to play it till the end. But yeah, so remember, the little girl is obsessed with watching Friends, and through this whole movie, she's talking about nothing but how she cannot watch Friends. She needs to try to get my computer working, try to get me online, try to do this, try to do that. Now, so she ends up she walks off, she leaves, and she ends up going to the neighbor's house, who by some crazy coincidence has an underground bunker.
Well, Lori, I don't mean to cut you off. There was one point in that movie where she had a talk with her mother before she left, saying that she has to take matters into her own hands.
Yeah, she's going to take matters into her own hand, whatever. And we were like, well, whatever that means. But so she leaves, and you see her in this house, this big, huge mansion, and she's like literally sitting at the table, scarfing down food. Cookies, ice cream, juice. I mean, like she hasn't eaten forever.
Yeah, none of it's logical or makes sense. I'll say this one thing and then I'll be quiet. She's eating the worst possible stuff. She just wants to return to her junk, and to that it's a normalcy to her. It's a comfort to her. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, she's none of it is like, oh, let me gather up water so I can bring it back to the house. Let me gather up something that's got sustenance. No, it's like she doesn't give a damn about the rest of her family. Give me my comfort, give me my TV show, give me my little thing, and I'm going to indulge myself. None of
Right.
it's like I need to, oh, this is a wonderful opportunity to gather resources, or maybe we should all move into this house because this is better and it's got a bunker. None of these like logical kind of thoughts happen at all.
Right. So she's scarf in her face eating, and she gets up and she walks down this hall and she finds the bunker. And I'm not gonna get into too much because this video that I'm gonna play is gonna explain it to you. But long story short, she finally gets to watch the end of the show. She finally gets to watch uh um Friends. Here she is in the bunker. She turns on the TV. She sits down in front of the TV, and we hear the Friends episode, which is the last Friends episode. It was the very last one, called The Last One. That's what it was called, The Last One, who starred Matthew Perry, who just recently died, who dated Julia Roberts. And this is how it ends, guys. She doesn't go back and get her family. She doesn't take any food. She doesn't tell anybody where she is. She sits down in front of the TV and she starts watching Friends, and that's how it ends.
There's a line earlier in the film, if somebody can help me remember what it said. She tries to explain why the brother's like, God, why are you always so on about Friends? What's the big deal about it? And she says something back. I forget exactly what she says. Does anyone remember?
No, I don't remember what it was, but yeah, she did.
It's something about how she wants friends in real life or something. I'm not remembering it word for word.
Yeah,
I know she was talking about how nobody will listen to her and nobody
something
will believe.
significant.
Yeah.
So here's a girl who has really no connection. And it's emblematic of a lot of these youth. They only relate to things through screens. That she has no face-to-face friends, no real friends. She's not even concerned about any of her schoolmates. She doesn't
That's why
ask about
I
them.
asked if anybody else thought that she was on the spectrum, whether she was autistic or not, because of that reason.
Well, I think they've engineered most of the youth to be that way, highly distracted, prioritizing things that make no real difference. And if they don't have that, and you see that in autistic, and you see that in Asperger's, they need that familiarity, sense of things, that feeling of control over something, even if it's something stupid, to feel okay. And if they don't have it, they're really messed up. They're in a state of total weakness.
Chaos.
You know, the isolation scenario, I mean, you can look at it from a psychic perspective too. Look at our kids. And just like Marcus says, there is no face-to-face interaction. You know, humans are designed to be around other humans. And being like very feeble and being very innocent and not knowing what's going on and just being engulfed in your screens and relating to people in those screens, that's their sense of connection. But that sense of connection isn't satisfying, and that's where the gap is coming with this new generation coming up with these screens and trying to do FaceTime instead of having that interaction. That's why I always encourage my kids to go out and have friends and go out and play and go out and spend the night at a friend's house and stuff like that, so they can get away from those screens to have that interaction. And I think that shows you just the consequence of the kids these days. They don't have that those parents that are working 9-to-5 jobs, or in my case 2 jobs, not being able to find time to spend with their children and being able to listen to them. And that central family unit that has been, the backbone of society for generations, and how God intended us to be, is null and void because everything is distracting us from what truly matters, is one, our relationship with the Most High God, and two, our ability to grow and develop as a family.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And Mr. Jones makes a good point here. He says large gaps between generations will cause less knowledge to be shared, which is absolutely true as well.
That's why, that is a great point, Mr. Jones. And that's why in my lifetime growing up, it was always encouraged to seek out the older people,
Yeah.
to sit down
Yeah.
and talk to them,
Yeah.
to learn from them. And I enjoy, even to this day, speaking to people who are older than me, because hearing their stories and just hearing their wisdom, and they have so much insight to bring to this world. But now nobody is listening to them because they're becoming lovers of themselves and
In the
proud and boisterous.
in the West, in China and Japan, their elderly are revered. They're still revered. Here, they're just disposable, and it's sad.
Exactly. We noticed that from 2020. Look what happened in New York
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
That was devastating and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. You want to talk about
I
genocide?
mean, those people have so much to bring to a younger generation. They just looked at them like they're just nothing. And that's what they're trying to do. Look what they're doing in Canada.
Yeah. Euthanasia. You're allowed to. I don't even want to. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. It's 12 minutes, but it explains the end. Let's take a listen to what they got to say.
Behind is an end-of-the-world drama thriller that asks the question, just how bad can Julia Roberts dance? From the creator of Mr. Robot and based on the novel of the same name, this movie has everything from tanker crashes, teeth falling out, and the latest Taylor Swift album. So in this video, I want to take a deep dive into some of the biggest mysteries to get to the bottom of what's going on. Now make sure to like and subscribe as we delve into this post-apocalyptic adventure, but don't bring your Tesla. Meet these Sanfords, just your typical New York family.
I fucking hate people.
That's Amanda, and as we'll come to see, she's got her own narrow-minded view of humanity. She and her family are on an impromptu vacation to leave the world behind, which is not only the name of the movie, but the first line of this gorgeous rental property they'll be spending their time at. It's quite apt that the first shot is of the sun rising over Earth, and as the film progresses, we'll see we get further and further away from it, just as our characters move further and further from the world they once knew. The blue color of our world is mimicked by the world of the Sanfords. They drive a blue car, wear blue clothing, and blue lighting often bathes our characters as they confront the perils around them. Blue here represents security. It's the world we know, but as the film progresses, this will slowly erode as the world descends into chaos. Even the local market, Point Comfort, with the blue signage, gives off these safe vibes. The film is split into 5 parts, each with its own focal point. Part 1 is the house, and the Sanfords settle into what's supposed to be a fun vacation. But things get off to a strange start as their day at the beach is ruined when a giant oil tanker crashes into the shore. I just hate when that happens. This is but the first of a series of strange occurrences that befall our family. Ironically enough, the name of this tanker is the White Lion. A white lion is said to be a symbol for the well-being of Mother Earth, so it crashing into the shore is some ominous foreshadowing. If you listen closely, you can make out a police officer stating that there have been several of these beachings up the coast, and it has something to do with their navigation systems. When our family gets back to the rental, both the Wi-Fi and TVs aren't working, so basically a vacation from hell. Clay Sanford, the father, an English and media college professor, tells his wife he's been asked to write the foreword to a book of one of his students, writing about how media serves as both an escape and a reflection. It's a quick line, but it also points to what this movie is, both an escape from reality, but a reflection of the world we live in. But the film really starts with the introduction of George and Ruth Scott. They are the owners of this rental, and because there's a blackout in the state and the roads are clogged, they've decided to spend the night, something Amanda Sanford isn't too happy about.
I'm sorry. I don't feel comfortable staying in a house with
Black people.
Amanda tries to hide her prejudice, not believing a person of color could own a house this expensive.
This is your house.
She even believes George and Ruth must be the help and are trying to con them.
Maybe he's the handyman.
She's the housekeeper.
And when offered a drink by George, she turns him down.
I'll pass.
The director shows this juxtaposition by framing Amanda and Clay on the left, white and light, and George and Ruth on the right, black and night. We'll see similar juxtaposition throughout the film, such as this shot between Amanda and George in front of this black and white abstract painting. George's blackness is something he hides from his predominantly white renters. Amanda notes that there are no family photos around the house. Instead, any information that would point to the owners being black are locked away in his office, which we only see briefly. Just a few miles away from George's home, we'll see Clay drive past Taney Farms, named after Roger B. Taney, the United States' 5th Chief Justice of the United States, who infamously ruled that African Americans could not be considered U.S. citizens, nor could the government prohibit slavery. That's not to say Ruth and George aren't without their prejudice either. Ruth goes on to say,
"If the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people."
The night gets even stranger when a national emergency broadcast appears on screen.
What's the magic behind the no-pierce earrings that even Melissa McCarthy couldn't resist? You must have heard of the two.
This is followed by a brief CNN chyron stating that a cyber attack has brought power outages all along the East Coast. Totally random, but bonus points if you caught the beach towel novel on Amanda's bedside table. Sam Ismail, the director, had a character named Irving write a novel of the same name in his show Mr. Robot. Now, part 2 is titled The Curve and is a reference to George's job. Part of his work in investments involves studying graphs, their ups and downs, and their curves. He says that if you analyze this stuff for long enough, you start to see patterns, and he noticed something strange in the days leading up to these events. Furthermore, he had an extremely wealthy defense contractor move vast sums of money out of his accounts a few days prior, almost as if he knew something was going to happen. George will head over to his neighbor's house, the Huxleys. This is no doubt a nod to English writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley, who often explored themes such as the dangers of technology in his work. When George finds the Huxley's place trashed, he ventures to the nearby beach and finds a plane crash, only for moments later to witness another plane crash in almost the identical spot. So it seems someone or something is programming these planes to land in a certain area, just like the oil tankers washed all along the coast. Later in the film, we'll see a fleet of unknown Teslas autopilot their way to the freeway where they crash into one another, making it impossible to leave the city. Is this all a freak accident, or is something more coordinated at play? Throughout the film, we'll see various animals responding to the events around them. A herd of deer, hundreds in size, appear in front of Rose. Birds swarm in circles, and even a group of flamingos land by their pool. We hear a brief radio announcement that some sort of catastrophic environmental disaster has happened and it's impacted migration patterns, so that may have something to do with it. Part 3 is titled The Noise, a reference to this ear-piercing screech that is so powerful it even breaks the glass on the house. Its origins remain a mystery, but survivalist Danny thinks he has the answer. Later in the movie, when Amanda and Clay's son Archie gets sick and starts losing his teeth, George remembers that his contractor friend Danny was a survivalist and may have some medication. Danny states that this noise was likely a microwave attack, similar to what happened to US diplomats in Cuba in 2016. It's possible that an enemy has harnessed this power and used it against the American people. Archie was also bitten by an insect, so we're never quite sure if his teeth falling out was the result of the noise or this bite. When Clay goes rushing into town hoping to find any information he can on what's going on, he encounters a drone dropping off hundreds of these red flyers in what appears to be Arabic. I had it translated and it roughly states, quote, "We ask you pay immediate attention to what we say in this publication. We have the most dangerous and destructive explosives in history, and we leave this horrific fact for you to contemplate and stress the validity of what is said. I'm using this on your land, and steps must be taken to stop the resistance built for peaceful surrender of your land." Danny says his friend in San Francisco experienced the same thing, but the flyers there were in Korean or Mandarin. But if you're invading an English-speaking country, why rain down flyers that no one can even read? This leads into George's theory of what's going on. When he was talking to his defense contractor friend, he said there was one 3-step maneuver to overthrow a government that scared him more than anything. This starts with stage 1, isolation, the disabling of communication and transportation. This is why we see the satellites not working, no GPS, and various forms of transportation like these electric Teslas used to block off main arteries into and out of cities. Stage 2 is synchronized chaos. You want to throw as much misinformation as possible, like those flyers, to scare and divide the people, eventually leading to step 3, an eventual coup. Whether this happens by civil war or other means, it results in the collapse of the government. You can actually overthrow a government without having to send in troops. It'll overthrow itself. So if a group of countries got together and enacted this 3-step plan and were successful, they could potentially topple the United States. At the end of the film, we'll see New York hit with nuclear bombs. It's not certain whether these are American bombs let loose on their own people or if they're from another country. The film also paints a jaded view on humanity, so much so that it begs the question whether we deserve what we got. Not only are we destroying the planet, check out the conscious decision to litter the beach in trash, but Amanda refers to herself and humanity as terrible people.
I hate being terrible like this.
Clay leaves a poor Spanish-speaking woman in need, and Archie takes creepy photos of Ruth. It's only Rosie who's still young enough to hold on to that innocence. Perhaps that's why she's so obsessed with Friends. It's a fantasy world where everything is light and fun, which is why Ruth says this about the show.
But it's almost nostalgic for a time that never existed.
Friends is a show that helps us ignore how awful humanity really is. As Amanda goes on to state,
I think we know we're living a lie, an agreed upon mass delusion to help us ignore and keep ignoring how awful we really are.
Rose will later explain why she needs to find out the ending to Friends because of her love for the characters.
I care about them.
To which her brother remarks,
Maybe you shouldn't.
this back and forth is especially important considering how the movie ends. Rose stumbles upon the Thorne household, the family Danny told us built a secret underground bunker in the event of a catastrophe. I found it quite interesting that the shelter is called Commodus, after a Roman emperor who was assassinated, and it's quite odd that the family that's supposed to be here is nowhere to be found. As the shelter boots up, we get confirmation that the White House and several major cities are under attack by rogue armed forces, but we never find out specifically who. It's even possible that these forces come from within the US itself. There are also increased levels of radiation detected, so we can assume these are atomic bombs of some kind. You'll see that Rose is bathed in the safe blue light of the shelter, while upstairs, the real world is painted crimson red. Danger. There's also something to be said about the items stocked away in the pantry. With minor exceptions, almost every product here has had some sort of pushback with being racially or culturally insensitive. From Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and Cream of Wheat's portrayal of African American stereotypes to Indian head cornmeal. Beside it, Indian orange drink mix, and I guess they didn't like the Chinese cherry flavor. And on the bottom left, Barilla Pasta, whose president has a history of stating homophobic beliefs. On the top right, we'll see Dixie Beer, which has recently changed the name of its brand as to not be associated with the slave-owning Confederacy. And last but not least, Trader Joe's Mexican beer that they titled Trader Jose's. If food isn't your thing, how about the vast collection of DVDs? And as luck would have it, they have the final episode of Friends Rose has been so desperate to watch. The title of the finale is The Last One, which is also the title of the final chapter of this film. As Rose clicks play, the film abruptly ends. We don't get to find out anything that happened to our characters, but maybe that's the point. Should we even care?
Maybe you shouldn't.
Especially if these are all terrible people. Our characters have left their world behind, and so too must we leave them. We are briefly put in their position, unsure of what will happen next. Many of the questions this movie asks have no answers, and it's up to us to decide. Who invaded? Will Ross end up with Rachel? And what will happen next? Let me know what you think.
So basically, I mean, he said a lot of the stuff that we had talked about tonight, but he did find that that line that you were asking about when she said why she liked Friends.
Right. I mean, she cares about something that's not real. So she
Exactly.
is ineffective, can't make a difference because her world revolves around things on a screen that aren't real. But so it's teaching the people to disassociate from what's going on. Just go to your happy place. And yeah, you can't make a difference. You can't find out. Even when you go to the guy that points the shotgun at him, Kevin Bacon, he's not really going to tell you all the information either. He says some, he softens up and he says some.
Right, he tells a
But
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, and also like the bunker that they find in Commodus, like this is like the like a proper like this is like the bunker you would have if you had an extra $30 million to prepare with.
Yeah, no, this isn't
Mhm.
one of your like bubble bunkers that, that most people had. This is like an elite this is like that movie I'm trying to think, it was a comedy with where they went underground and they were checking, they ended up, he came back up and what's his name, with Brandon Fraser. It was that kind of
I
movie.
have no, I have
Now,
no idea what you're talking about.
So
that was a long time ago. But no, I mean, it's not one of your average bunker where a middle class American family could be able to afford. This was
not
definitely an elite.
not even close. Yeah,
But here's
exactly.
the thing, though, they weren't
Yeah,
there,
thank you.
so I'm assuming they had insider information is going to be a lot worse than what that bunker could hold.
Maybe they either got out or they were someplace else when the catastrophe hit.
They were stuck in. Well, the book synopsis said they were stuck in San Diego, but we never find out where they were. But in the movie,
Right.
but in the book, they were stuck in San Francisco.
So I think this reflects the elitism. This is my opinion. Just
Uh-huh.
I'm here to share my opinion, and that's what I'm doing. The elitism of the Obamas. Like, if you let's go to a vacation house. Well, of course, your vacation house is going to look like this multi-million-dollar mansion. Of course, that's what all vacation houses are like. And they're a prepper with a bunker. Well, of course, that means that preppers with bunkers are like this. So they're
Mhm.
not like you. They're nothing, but to them, I think they're reflecting their bias. Like, I mean, they've got ridiculous amount of money to just waste. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Michelle is going to carry 20 different suitcases and it's going to take 5 cars and 3 valets just to, but it's so normal to them and it's inside their elitist bubble that I think that leaks out into this movie. My opinion, I might be wrong, but that this is what a bunker is like. Well, this is what a vacation house is
Right.
like.
Right. Exactly. So, how does this movie tie in with, we think, with the coming movie in April of 2024, which is called Civil War? Well, I mean, when he gives us the breakdown of the three phases of, the isolation, the synchronized chaos, and then the Civil War. I mean, like Marcus, you've been saying through this whole show, is that the groundwork for a civil war has been being set here, literally right in front of our eyes.
Right. Right. Now let's talk about. Yeah, I forgot to make this point earlier. We know for a fact from documents that have come out since that the globalists, the elitists, you can call them various things, their plan was for Hillary Clinton to become president. Hillary Clinton would then immediately get the US in a nuclear war with Russia. So their plan was to have Russia nuke the USA, but in a way that they can blame it on Russia, but we provoked it. And Hillary was their person to do that. That did not happen when Trump got into office, a major upset. And they've been butthurt and held this horrible grudge against Trump ever since. And there's no punishment that's too great in their mind for this person that upset their plan that they were so attached to, so invested in for decades and decades and decades. They wanted the USA to already be deleted by nuclear war.
Right.
And so everything since then is just their contempt because they're behind schedule according to their plans. Civil war should have happened a long time ago in their wishful thinking. And praise God, God did not let that happen.
Right.
God gave time.
We're still on God's timeline.
God gave America more time to wake up and repent. America has not repented. more people are awake, but still
Not repentant. Yeah.
not enough to turn the thing. Too many people are invested in the fantasy narrative that just tickles our ears of we can make America great again. We're going to return to normal. The economy's going to bounce back. And so we live in an incredibly fake world, fake people, fake news, we have a fake economy. We have I don't watch a bunch of stocks and stuff like that. There's one thing that I watch, which is the price of silver, because that's all I can afford. I can't afford gold. And we see it going down in price when gold is jumping up in price, but the silver's going down considerably. I'm talking about in the last 30 days. Okay.
Wow.
So there's not a logical reason for that to happen. And then we see silver just radically making one of its biggest jumps just a few days ago, a whole dollar an ounce, which is a big amount in the world of silver, which, it went up 5 cents. It went down 7 cents. It went, those are more the normal types of moves. The whole market is fake. It's manipulated.
Right.
As many other people who are, let's say, whistleblowers are trying to warn us about stuff. They say America's housing market is completely people can't afford their mortgages. And this is another epidemic, like an economic epidemic, to mix my metaphors, that's just waiting to be a complete disaster. We see banks going under, cyber attacks on banks. We see that we're being attacked with fifth generational warfare, something Big John has also spoke about, from every direction. So in this movie, we see more of that. We see more disinformation. We see fear mongering with flyers that no one can read. We see things happening with no explanation. Normally, the LRAD thing was originally developed in mind with the idea to disperse rioters.
Right.
And so they'd be rioting. And again, this is within a context of a city. And so this horrible, painful sound would come along with microwave weapons, which would create a very real, painful burning, but just on the very, 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 very surface of the skin. But so incredibly painful. I don't care what you were doing a second ago. You're going to drop everything in your hands and run. And it's talk about overwhelm you. So that could be dispersed. But that was for people in a city. Now we see in this movie, it's just being released on the whole entire countryside for no reason. They're not trying to disperse a mob with it. So we see all of these things happening. We see that
it was almost like they were just, because we had mentioned at the beginning of the show how, they're not even hiding it anymore. It's so in our faces. I mean, literally, they don't even try to, just sugarcoat it. It's just in our faces. And it was almost like Obama was like, you know what? Just throw everything at these people in the next hour or 2 hours and 18 minutes. Wrap it up in a bow, or wrap it up in a box. Don't even put a bow on it, and just give it to them.
Right. Screw you. And
Screw
so
you
here's
guys. F you. I don't care at this point. Y'all know. So now I'm just gonna mock you.
Here's what we're gonna do to you. You can't do anything about it. So
and that is the exact definition of telegraphing, where they have no choice but to tell us. And what they do is try to find it here. I can never find it when
we
I want
see
it.
in so many movies where the evil villain starts monologuing, they get so assured of their victory. I think that's what they're doing. They're overconfident. They're overplaying their hand. Go ahead.
Right. Exactly. And it's, when you talk about the telegraphing, they do it says, this is what it's right from the website. It says, according to Kabbalistic rituals, one has to tell his cursed victims that they are cursed. Therefore, when they die, even after knowing what is about to happen to them, the supreme supernatural power of the occult is revealed and glorified to the whole world. So they love to tell their victims what's about to happen to them and then watch their victims unable, totally powerless to prevent their demise.
So here we've got this movie. On the surface level of the movie, all these chaotic things start happening. and there's no explanation,
None.
and people can't find out what's going on, and they're left helpless. That's the surface level. That's what the movie is literally depicting.
Exactly.
We have the Cernunno's horned god running amok, literally running amok, and with no explanation, and the god of chaos and rewilding America, taking everything into the wildness. There's no longer order, right? We know that their goal is to destroy their motto. Their motto, it's not hidden, order out of chaos. So they have to create a bunch of chaos so they can shake everything up and then reform it into the way they think it should be formed.
Right.
And so they think they're such hot stuff that they can do this.
Exactly.
So I personally do believe that they will be successful in eventually pushing America into a literal civil war.
Absolutely.
And it's not just me. I mean, other people have seen visions of this and so forth. So the Bible doesn't say America has gone into civil war. It does say that, Mystery Babylon will be burnt down and destroyed in 1 hour. That's as specific as the Bible gets on it, which I believe definitely applies to America. So
Dimitri Duduman, he saw the foreseen
and many others.
People, many, yeah. So okay, so we've only got a few minutes again, coming up on 2 hours. So to bring us into this next succession of movies. Again, this movie does not come out until April of 2024, which is right around the time I personally believe, and I know Ernie's on the same page as I am, and most likely Marcus is, but I think that's going to be around the time that we are going to start seeing an uptick of more chaos, of more events that are going to be, because guys, the last thing that they want is an election next year.
Yeah, so forgive me for asking a dumb question, but yeah, what day is the actual election scheduled for?
November 8th.
November 8th. Okay.
Yeah. So, and this is coming out in April. Let's take a look at this. I haven't watched this yet, but this is the Civil War official trailer.
19 states have seceded. The United States Army ramps up activity. The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
You're moving to D.C. today.
We need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death.
Blooded.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? We're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car! Move!
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
God bless America.
Sign of things to come.
Yeah, sign of things to come. Wars and rumors of wars. you know. So that was the breakdown of these two movies that everybody's talking about. They are definitely significant and important. It's going to be happening, and I think Marcus said it best earlier tonight when he said, "Don't fall into the trap." When things start to happen, don't get caught up in them. Remember that, in order to play chess, in order to play checkers, in order to play a game, you have to have have more than one player. You can't play chess without the pawns. So remember that, guys. Final thoughts from you two?
Final thought from me, real quick, jumping in, is this movie and the other movies and these foreshadowing things and these telegraphing things, whatever terminology you want to put to it, these are actually casting a kind of spell. We talked about how it's trying to program the mind, speaking to the unconscious, train you to be passive and stuff. We've said that several times, but it's casting the spell of the chaos god on America. And whether you agree with it or not, it's trying to get your consent to that. So what you do when you watch it, you go, listen, all movies at this point are programming, but more than programming, okay? The deepest level of the rabbit hole is that they're trying to change things spiritually so that the physical change that they want to have happen is easy. And like they said, at the third stage, if we've done the first two stages right, the third stage will do itself. So if we change the spiritual dynamics, the spiritual territory, the spiritual authority structures over America, all the rest is going to fall into place. So when you watch a movie like this, and any movies, right, you should go, God help, give me the right eyes, give me the right ears, give me the right understanding, but protect me from anything that they're trying to do to me, because they're trying to do things to your spirit with this movie. They're trying this. Let me say it succinctly. This movie is a curse. This movie is releasing a curse upon America. Now, how well does that curse work? That depends on how much you agree to it, how much you end up feeling helpless and victimized. So you come to this movie, you come away from this movie and say, yeah, I just had some elitists lecturing me and try to cram their version of what's to come down my throat. You say, God, I do not consent to civil war. I do not consent to be getting caught up in civil war. And I say your word, like Psalm 91 says, hey, this may happen to the left and to the right of me, but it will not come to my tent. The enemy will curse you if you let it curse you. Just being a Christian doesn't automatically mean all of us have lived long enough to know this. Everything's, unicorns and rainbows and cotton candy and whatever. Jesus, the Father God gave Jesus trials. He was rejected. The Father, who does Father God love? If he loves anybody the most, it would be his only begotten Son. Yet he did not give his only begotten Son an easy life. He trained him through hardship. The Bible literally said Jesus learned obedience through that which he suffered.
Right.
America in general has had, your life may be different, but in general, it's had a lot of prosperity, relatively speaking. Well, now we're in a season of adversity. Now you can have a fear relationship to that, you can have a faith relationship to that. You get to choose. Don't be passive and let movies like this shove you into the one mode or another. This movie, I repeat, is a curse. It is trying to do witchcraft, spellcraft on you, mind control on you. Those are all those terms heavily overlap each other. Okay, so it's trying to shift your being into, it's trying to defeat you before it happens physically. So you go, God, I don't consent to the programming in this movie. I ask you to protect my mind. I ask you to make me bold and strong. So we had earlier, America had a movie called Red Dawn.
Yeah.
And there was a remake of that movie. But in that movie, America's being invaded, and there's a very, very different response. Americans have a can-do attitude. Americans have a proactive attitude. And is it kind of, sophomoric and cliche and sort of, we're going to kill them, Wolverines. But the point is, we stood up. we made a difference and we overcame. Even in the ways that you could say the movie was cheesy, the mindset of America back then to people are trying to do bad stuff to you is, oh, hell no, they're not. I'm rising up and I'm going to do something about it. And I'm not just going to do something about it. I am going to win. And there was a sense of confidence. This movie is there to put a curse on you to make you the opposite of that. Your enemies are coming in and you're dazed and confused. You're clueless and you're helpless and you are defeated. So there's an overcoming mindset and then there's a defeated mindset.
Right.
The mindset from the kingdom of God is always victory. Now, is our victory lying in making America great, as Trump and company would say? No. We need to be great in other ways. We need to be great in our faithfulness to God, our responsiveness to God. And that's something that I can't put into formulas because it's not a formula. Ernie?
I really don't know what to say after all that. I mean, you really put it so eloquently, Marcus. But one thing that I notice with things come in threes, right?
Yeah.
First off, we've seen the creator. It came out first.
Yep.
Now we've seen Leave World Behind. Now we're going to see Civil War. Now it appears that each movie is coming one after the other. And one has to ask themselves, why is that happening? Well, the answer is simple. We pointed out in this broadcast, it's going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? As Marcus so eloquently stated, that we really can't rely on fighting on a surface level because it's more on a spiritual level. This is where it comes home to the Bible. We have to rely on God's strength to endure what's to come. I keep saying this over and over again. We have to rely on scripture. We have to have that relationship and have that foundation set with God as being the chief cornerstone. If we don't, then we are doomed to fail, both in this lifetime and in during the second death. We have to declare Jesus as our Lord and Savior, because if we don't, then we are doomed for destruction. Because the things of this world is going to take place on levels that we have never seen before. We are going to see things that you will only imagine in the movies, but way worse. We are going to experience people in our lives who we grown to love and trust completely fall through the wayside, betray us, they give us up to reprobate minds, they give us up for persecution. We cannot rely on our own strength to overcome this. This is not a physical battle. Ephesians 6 states this.
Right.
We're not wrestling against flesh and blood. We're dealing with spiritual demonic principalities that is sought to every level to destroy us because they hate us because we were created in God's image. And we have to understand that. A lot of people want to take up arms and fight. Oh, we have to defend our home. Yes, that is true. But our home defense starts with the Bible.
That's right.
That's all we need, because it provides us with the spiritual armor. It provides us with the ammo, which is the word of God, the truth.
And
we
right
have
after
to,
that verse, it says, the weapons of our warfare are what? Fill in the blank. Right after it says we're not warring in the flesh, we're warring after the spirit. I know I'm putting everyone on the spot. And the weapons of our warfare are mighty to the pulling down of strongholds. And we've got the whole Bible given to us. It's not given to us to make a bunch of pretty stories. It's not given to us to just find a bunch of sermon material. It's there to show us how to win at life. We do not win at life in the way the elitists think of it. I've got nice houses and eat nice food and have yachts and all this stuff. We win at life by proving ourselves faithful, responsible to God, not perfect, so that God rewards us throughout eternity. Our life is key. It matters. We're not insignificant. So got the story of David and Goliath. David was hopelessly outmatched by a trained professional killer who was probably 3 times his size at least. He won the
And some
battle
people viewed him
spiritually.
as a Nephilim too.
He absolutely was a Nephilim. This is not a human thing. And he came by mocking God and mocking the armies of God. And
And what did David say to him?
Yep.
You come here with your shields and your
That's right.
swords. I come here in the mighty name of God.
That's right. You, uncircumcised Philistine, have mocked the armies of God. Well, this very day, I'm not going down. You're going down. I'm going to give your body to the beasts of the field, the birds of the air. You're going to lie dead. You're about to be defeated. Why? Because I, David, am a super warrior and I've got a big ego and you've offended me? No, because you have mocked the living God and the armies of the living God. So David won by faith. Yes, he had to throw that stone from his sling, a skill he had practiced and honed. But he won the battle first spiritually. He didn't have superior armor on to Goliath's armor, just the opposite. And so we see also, jumping around, we see in the story of Elijah. Elijah is literally surrounded by an enemy army that have come to get specifically him. Thousands of warriors. No, it was because Elijah was seeing what was going on in the camp of the Philistine leader.
Oh yes,
And
yes,
he would
that's
tell, yeah, and that's the story with Gehazi and all this kind of stuff, and where he sees the chariots of God in the mountains around, and he says, "There's more of us with us than there are with them." Like on one hand, look, there's a whole literal army out to get him, just him. He stands no chance, in the same way that Goliath was much bigger, much better armed, much better armored, much better trained as a killer than David was. But David operated faith. So we've got all these stories. We could go on and on about them. But Elijah cursed the whole entire army with blindness. Now, suddenly, the powerful army is blind and helpless. The Israelites could have killed them all. I go, no, let's teach them a lesson. Let's send them back to their king, ashamed, defeated, because Elijah won the war spiritually. I'm not saying we don't physically prepare. I'm saying just what Ernie was just saying. Unless that war starts with the with the spiritual victory, all this physical stuff isn't going to do it. We're not going to have more tanks and guns and bombs and stuff. That's not how it's done. So when you read the Bible, when you hear anything about it, as God directs you, as God brings things to your remembrance, He goes, "Teach me, God. Okay, this is the story, but how does it apply? How does it affect how I need to be living?" And it's not us showing you. It's not these videos showing you. You are in a relationship with God. You are asking God's questions. God is giving you answers. It's not a quickie process. God is not a slot machine, a vending machine. It is a relationship. God, what do I need to be focused on? Should I put money aside to store up food? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I move? This is not the psychic hotline. We're not here to give you a bunch of pat answers. You work that out between you and God. And this is your opportunity. Again, the Bible says that Father God taught his own son, Jesus, obedience by making him go through a considerable amount of suffering. And we're not even talking about the crucifixion. He went through what Ernie was just talking about: betrayals, misunderstandings, being mocked, giving people goodness and having people give him evil back. So your life is not supposed to be roses. God allows adversity. In fact, it's part of his plan for us. The flesh doesn't want to hear this, and Joel Osteen won't tell you this either. but the Bible tells us God wants us to be strong. If you're going into the Super Bowl, and I'm comparing this to the end times, right? The battle of all battles. There's a lot of training that goes in so that when that Super Bowl comes, you can win. There's a lot of painful weightlifting, a lot of running, a lot of you know what I'm saying? It's not that complicated of analogy, folks. Sorry. But you've got to train for that. Well, train up your mind, train up your spirit. Thanks for letting me jump in on you, Ernie.
No, you're good, brother. You're good.
And again, we don't bring you guys this to cause any fear or any, any kind of, emotional trauma for you guys. We just want you to be aware of the things that are going on, the things that, the things that are being put out there to most likely try to program us for what is coming. And, if you go back and listen to what both Marcus and Ernie said, because it's a spiritual battle, and it's a battle that's already been won at the cross. We need to remember that as well. So thank you, Ernie. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
I thank all of the people in our chat room for joining us. Thank all of our moderators as always. And until next time, guys, remember, eyes open, no fear.